Today you will learn a stunning story of someone who died, saw paradise, and came back with a shocking revelation about the future, including a mysterious prophecy about the Pope in 2025. What he saw changed everything and could impact the world for years to come. Before we start, comment here from which city you are watching this video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories like this. My name is Caspian Blackwell, and on that fateful day, life seemed to conspire against me. Eleanor, my beloved wife, was sitting next to me, her eyes full of concern and a tiredness that showed on her face. We had returned from Hawaii, a haven of peace and renewal, but the road to New Orleans that day was a harbinger of something terrible. "Caspian, please don't insist," she whispered, almost begging, as she looked out the window at the storm that was forming outside. "I know, Eleanor, but we need to get there soon," I replied, trying to sound confident even with my heart racing. The heavy clouds and heavy rain began to transform the road into an inhospitable landscape. The asphalt seemed to slip beneath the tires, and the rapidly approaching darkness made every turn a risky gamble. With each passing minute, the sound of the wind mixed with the frantic beating of my heart. As I struggled against the steering wheel, trying to keep the car in the lane, the headlights of a vehicle suddenly came into my field of vision. In a frozen instant, the impact was inevitable. The thunderous sound of twisted metal, shattering glass and muffled screams formed a symphony of chaos. I remember feeling a shudder that seemed to disintegrate every fiber of my being. Amidst the confusion, I heard Eleanor shout, "Caspian, hold tight!" But the sound was lost in the cacophony of the accident. For a brief moment, everything was completely silent, as if time had surrendered to the horror of what had happened. Then, when I regained consciousness, I was no longer in the car. I floated, watching everything from an angle that defied logic. My own body contorted on the asphalt, with debris scattered everywhere. Eleanor lay there, unconscious and motionless, her pale face illuminated only by the distant lightning. At first, I felt no pain or panic. Instead, a strange calm came over me. It was as if I were watching a disturbing film, but knowing, in an inexplicable way, that it was real. A soft, serene voice echoed in my mind, as if coming from a place where time and pain did not exist. "You are seeing the truth beyond physical life." This message filled my ears and, at the same time, brought a feeling of inevitability. As I floated, I saw every detail, the metallic shine of the car, the raindrops that still fell on the wreckage, and the serene, almost angelic expression that seemed to emanate from Eleanor. Even unconscious, the scenario was so surreal that, for a moment, I questioned whether it was all just a delirium induced by the proximity of death. The wind whispered ancient secrets, and each ray of light that cut through the darkness seemed to reveal forgotten memories. Time seemed to slow down, allowing me to absorb every detail with stunning clarity. My mind, normally so busy, opened to a universe of feelings and sensations that I had never experienced. At that exact moment, reality was divided into two: the physical world, marked by the chaos of the accident, and the spiritual world, where existence was pure and devoid of judgment. I found myself between these two worlds, aware that something extraordinary was about to unfold. As the strange calm enveloped me, a new scenario began to unfold before my ethereal eyes. Suddenly, I found myself in front of a gigantic screen, as if I were inside a cosmic cinema, where every scene of my existence was projected with brutal intensity. I saw myself, as a child again, running through my grandparents' backyard on a sunny afternoon, innocent laughter echoing through the trees and the smell of wet earth filling the air. Every detail, the sound of leaves in the wind, my mother's whispers calling me inside, unfolded with a clarity that surprised me. Caspian, or rather, Zephyr, I thought, as my name now echoed distantly, as if I were rediscovering it. The images advanced quickly. I saw myself as a teenager, facing my first challenges, each victory and defeat filled with an emotion that taught me, even if in a subtle way, about the fragility of life. In the midst of these memories, a soft voice, but full of meaning, began to tell me, "Look, Zephyr, every moment was a lesson. See how your innocence turned into resilience, and how every choice, even the small ones, shaped the man you are today." The words resonated as I went through decisive moments. The day I fell out with my father, the pain and pride mixed during reunions with friends, and even the silent moments in which I chose not to speak, harboring hurts that now appeared like dark shadows on the screen. I remembered an episode where, as a young man, I got into a fight with a friend over a trivial misunderstanding. On the screen, I relived the discussion with all the details, the tone of voice, the exaggerated gestures, and the sadness that set in afterwards, as if a part of me was losing itself in that conflict. Between these scenes, other images of affection appeared with the force of a flash. Eleanor's tight hug on a difficult day, the laughter shared under the dim light of a family party, and even the lonely moments in which I tried to reinvent myself. Every memory has its weight, and you carried so much, Zephyr, whispered the voice, which now seemed to mix compassion and warning. I felt as if it were possible to touch every emotion portrayed there. The impact of my choices not only on myself, but on everyone who crossed my path. As I revisited these moments, I saw the bright lights of kindness and the dark tones of regrets. It was as if every smile, every tear turned into pure energy. Light and shadow intertwined, drawing a map of everything I was and am. The screen then filled with quick images. The sparkle in Eleanor's eyes, my father's worried look, the distant echo of friendships lost in time. In the midst of this turmoil, an internal dialogue emerged. If I could go back, what would I change? But the answer, coming from the same soft voice, was clear. This is not about repentance, but about understanding. Every act, every word, was necessary for you to understand the essence of life. With these words, I realized that it was not just a retrospective, but an invitation to understand the interconnection of my moments, as if each small decision formed the great mosaic of my existence. I was immersed in this whirlwind of emotions, aware that each revisited scene brought lessons that needed to be absorbed so that I could move forward, lighter and wiser. As my life review began to dissipate, a sense of renewal and expectation washed over me. The cosmic screen gradually emptied, giving way to a new scene, an immensity full of light and shadows. On the horizon, a radiant light emerged, pulsing with a brilliance that seemed to invite me forward, as if the promise of redemption and peace resided there. I walked, or rather floated towards this flash, feeling that each step, although footless, carried the intensity of a rebirth. However, to my surprise, an invisible barrier began to form in front of me, like an ethereal shield that prevented my advance. "What is that?" I asked in thought, my inner voice filled with concern and surprise. A serene presence was noticed next to me. It was the same soft voice that had accompanied me since the accident, now revealing a tone of explanation. "This barrier is the materialization of resentments, hurts, and moments of pride that you never resolved," said the voice, with a calm that contrasted with the turbulence of my spirit. As I heard these words, images began to form around me. I found myself involved in heated arguments with people I loved, memories of moments when harsh words were spoken without thinking, and broken promises that left deep scars. My father's face, marked by distance and unspoken silences, appeared, as well as the hurt looks of former friends. Each memory was accompanied by an echo of pain, transforming the barrier into a wall made of unresolved feelings. I didn't know. I never imagined these moments would accumulate like this. I confessed mentally, feeling the truth of each word reverberate in the environment around me. The barrier pulsed with energy, and as I approached, it intensified, as if unwilling to yield to the advance of a heart that still carried so much weight. In a burst of courage, I began to speak loudly, as if my words could dispel those shadows. I forgive my father, I forgive those I hurt, and I forgive myself for not being better. With each word of forgiveness, I felt a fraction of the barrier dissolve, like ice melting under the heat of the sun. The serene voice continued to guide me. "Forgiveness is the first step to freedom, Zephyr. Accept your flaws and allow the light of love to penetrate these dark corners of your being." As he recited this redemption mantra, the barrier began to shake. Images of possible reunions, of hugs and reconciliations, appeared amidst the light, signaling that the wounds of the past were slowly healing. I felt the weight of the years falling away, replaced by an energy of hope and relief. The glow in front of me, which had previously seemed unreachable, now flickered with even greater intensity, announcing that the passage was opening. However, there were still remnants of the old sorrows, persistent shadows that, although weakened, still insisted on marking the transition between the material world and that new kingdom of light. "Are you ready to move on?" asked the voice, now softer and more inviting, as if waiting for my confirmation to continue. I felt an inner peace consolidate. the decision becoming clear even in the face of the scars. With a deep sigh, I responded in thought, recognizing the importance of that moment of healing and redemption. As the barrier completely dissipated, I felt a profound transformation. The light, now even more intense, surrounded me completely, and the environment around me was transmuted into a dreamscape. Suddenly, I was no longer floating in the void, but was walking through a field of flowers of colors I had never seen. The soft scent of each petal mingled with a warm, comforting breeze. The ground seemed to pulse with vital energy, and every step I took caused little lights to light up beneath my feet. Unbelievable, I murmured, marveling at the beauty that surrounded me, while my eyes were lost in the immensity of that earthly paradise. In the distance, a stream sparkled like liquid crystal. Its sound was like a melody that lulled my soul, soothing the painful memories of the previous moments. The sky, although without a visible sun, bathed everything in a golden light that seemed to come from all directions, creating a scene of pure serenity. As I walked forward, I began to notice a subtle presence approaching. A radiant figure, enveloped in an aura of peace and wisdom, walked towards me with soft steps. His features were delicate, and his expression exuded compassion. I felt such an intense sense of welcome that I almost forgot the weight of my journey. "Who are you?" I asked with a trembling voice, still astonished by the beauty and calm of that environment. The figure smiled and, without making a sound, his words echoed in my mind with surprising clarity. "I am Luciel, the guide who came to light your path and help you unlock the secrets of this new plane of existence." I was in disbelief for a moment. The encounter with Luciel seemed to transcend any expectations I might have had, as if the universe had gathered all the energies of love and wisdom in that singular being. He extended his hand, and a comforting warmth coursed through my body, dispelling any trace of fear or doubt. "Come, Caspian," continued Luciel, now with a tone that mixed kindness and authority. "This is a place of learning and spiritual rest, where every pain and joy in your life finds greater meaning." As I followed him, I observed every detail of the environment. Trees that seemed to whisper ancient secrets, flowers that opened in symphony with the wind, and the stream that, like a mirror, reflected not only the surrounding scenery, but also the nuances of my own existence. During the walk, Luciel explained to me that paradise was a reflection of the essence of pure and unconditional love, where each soul had the opportunity to understand and heal the wounds of the past. "Here, you will find true freedom," he said, as he pointed to a horizon where the colors merged into a hypnotic spectacle. "What you've seen so far, every pain and every joy, were the steps that brought you to this moment. It's time to learn to turn these lessons into light." Luciel's presence seemed to touch not only my mind, but also my heart. In the midst of that idyllic setting, I could feel a calm that I had never experienced in life. Every word he spoke resonated with the certainty that, even after the chaos and pain, there was a path of redemption and hope in store for me. As the sky lit up in shades of gold and orange, and the murmur of the brook turned into a lullaby, I understood that this was not just a temporary refuge, but a portal to understanding the true essence of existence. Each step alongside Luciel reaffirmed the idea that, even in the darkest moments, light always finds a way to emerge. Alongside Luciel, I continued my journey through that ethereal paradise, where time seemed suspended and beauty surpassed any earthly imagination. Each step revealed new nuances of light and color, and suddenly, in an enchanted corner of lush gardens, I came across a vision that took my breath away. There, under the soft shade of a sparkling-leaved tree, stood Eleanor. My heart, which until then beat with the cadence of revelations and spiritual consolation, accelerated uncontrollably. Eleanor, who had always been the embodiment of tenderness in my life, seemed to brim with an even more intense light than before. His serene gaze and a slight smile transformed the surrounding environment, filling it with an aura of peace and unconditional love. "Eleanor," my voice, choked with emotion, barely managed to form. She looked at me with a familiar glow, that same look that, during our life together, expressed a silent but deep love. "Caspian, my love," she replied, her voice soft as the whisper of the wind between the leaves. "I have always been with you, even in the moments when you doubted my presence." The emotion of our reunion seemed to transcend space and time itself. I hugged her with an intensity that sought to recover all the moments we had left unsaid. But soon the joy was mixed with a bittersweet feeling when, in a moment of shared silence, Eleanor spoke in a calm but firm voice. "There is something you need to know, Caspian. Although we are here, in this haven where love and redemption meet, your journey is not yet over." I watched her, eyes teary, trying to understand what she meant. Luciel, who was watching our reunion, nodded with a serene expression. "Your return to Earth is necessary," he intervened in a compassionate voice. "There is a mission that only you can fulfill." The news fell like a rain of conflicting feelings. On the one hand, being reunited with Eleanor was a gift he had never imagined receiving. On the other, the idea of leaving that celestial environment and returning to the material world filled my being with indescribable restlessness. "But why now?" I questioned, feeling a mixture of hope and sadness. Eleanor squeezed my hands gently, her eyes fixed on mine, as if to convey the certainty that, despite the imminent separation, our love would remain unshakable. "Because there are souls who still need your light, Caspian. Your experience and the lessons you learned here must be taken to the world so that others can find the path to redemption." I hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of a responsibility I had never imagined carrying. The environment seemed to vibrate with the urgency of that call, while Luciel's presence reinforced the need to fulfill a greater destiny. "I didn't want to leave you, Eleanor," I confessed, my voice breaking. "But if it's my mission to help others, then I'll do it, even if it means facing the pain of separation." Eleanor smiled with a tenderness that seemed to illuminate even the shadows of my doubts. "Promise you will never stop believing in our reunion," she whispered. "I promise, my love," I replied, feeling that each word sealed a pact of eternal love and renewed hope. So, in that corner of peace, the reunion with Eleanor was not just a goodbye, but the beginning of a journey that called me back to Earth. As I prepared to fulfill this mission, every step I took was permeated by the certainty that true love is capable of transcending even the barriers between the physical and spiritual worlds. While Eleanor's last words still resonated in my being, the paradisiacal environment began to transform. The soft light gave way to a whirlwind of images and sounds, as if time and space were bending to reveal what was to come. Luciel raised his hand and, in a silent gesture, the scenery around me began to fall apart, giving way to a chaotic and intense sequence of visions. Suddenly, I found myself immersed in a whirlwind of scenes. In an instant, I was faced with dark, oppressive rooms where religious and political leaders gathered in whispered conversations. The expressions on their faces were difficult to decipher. There was a mix of ambition, fear, and restlessness that spilled over into every word spoken. The whispers seemed to echo a dark secret, a conspiracy that was spreading like a silent disease among the powerful. "Look, Caspian," said Luciel, his calm voice cutting through the chaos of the images. "These figures are manipulating the faith and hope of the faithful for their own ends." I saw these faces disappear into smoke as their words turned to shadows, revealing a web of vested interests and corruption within institutions that were supposed to be sanctuaries of light. Soon, one date stood out in this whirlwind of visions: 2025. The images settled on a crucial year, where cataclysmic and spiritual events intertwined in a disturbing way. One scene in particular burned itself into my mind. Pope Francis, whose image had always been a symbol of faith and hope, appeared fragile and ill, surrounded by an aura of concern and uncertainty. His failing health seemed to be the trigger for a wave of events that would threaten to shake the foundations of global faith. In 2025, Luciel repeated with restrained emphasis, a turning point will occur. This crisis, both spiritual and physical, will serve to reveal the manipulations that have long corrupted the pillars of religious institutions. The view changed quickly. In an abrupt cut, I saw the earth being shaken by natural disasters, earthquakes that ripped up the ground, ravenous fires that consumed forests and cities, and storms that spread mercilessly. It was as if nature itself cried out for justice, demanding that humanity face the consequences of its actions. Amid this chaotic scenario, small pockets of hope emerged. Communities came together in gestures of compassion, helping each other without expecting anything in return. People of different beliefs and origins met to rebuild what had been destroyed, guided by a true faith and devoid of personal interests. It was as if, in the midst of chaos, the essence of love and solidarity shone with redemptive power. "You need to go back, Caspian," instructed Luciel, as the visions began to slowly dissipate, giving way to the tranquility of the spiritual environment. Its mission is to take this message to the world, alert those who still have an open heart to hear the truth and thus prepare the faithful for what is to come. The images still pulsed in my mind, a whirlwind of emotions and warnings for an uncertain future. I felt the weight of responsibility in every fiber of my being, aware that what I had witnessed was not just a prediction, but a call to act with wisdom and compassion. The fate of the world was at stake, and no matter how frightening what the future held, the flame of hope burned brightly, ready to light the paths of those who sought the truth. Images of the future were still pulsing in my mind when I felt an intense pull, as if an invisible force wanted to drag me back to the physical world. Suddenly, the ethereal floating sensation began to dissipate, replaced by a sharp, unrelenting pain that spread through my body. Every fiber of my being screamed in protest as I was abruptly reintroduced to the material plane. No, it can't be, I thought, trying to scream, but my voice was lost in the pain and confusion. The air seemed thin, and the sensation of breathing turned into a desperate fight for life. Within seconds, the intensity of the torment subsided, and I awoke in a cold, sterile environment, surrounded by mechanical sounds and rushing voices. As I opened my eyes, the harsh reality of the hospital hit me hard. Fluorescent lights illuminated a room full of equipment that monitored my every heartbeat. Doctors and nurses moved quickly around the bed, but for a moment, everything seemed distant and surreal. A feeling of déjà vu invaded my mind. I still saw the images of my body on the asphalt and Eleanor's shadow, which, at that moment, seemed like a painful and definitive memory. "Mr. Blackwell, how are you feeling?" A nurse approached, her soft voice contrasting with the rigidity of the hospital environment. "Where is Eleanor?" I managed to mutter, my voice weak and choked. "Unfortunately, she didn't survive the accident," replied the doctor with a serious tone, while his eyes avoided direct contact with mine. The words echoed in my mind like thunder, shattering any remaining hope I might have had. Shock was mixed with deep sadness. My beloved Eleanor, companion on every journey, had been ripped away from me at that moment when I experienced transcendence. I felt excruciating pain, as if a part of me had been ripped away forever. As the days passed, physical recovery proved to be a constant battle, but it was the emotional pain that became most unbearable. Every movement, every heartbeat, brought with it the memory of Eleanor and the abrupt separation that I could never fully understand. The nights were filled with silent tears and long moments of introspection, where I wondered if it would ever be possible to reconcile the pain with the mission that still awaited me. "I need to continue, even if it means carrying this pain," I repeated to myself, trying to find meaning in what I had experienced. Friends and family visited, offering words of comfort that, although well-intentioned, could not erase the void left by the loss. In the midst of recovery, thoughts of my spiritual experience and the visions I had been granted mixed with the painful reality of grief. The feeling of having been chosen for something greater struggled with the fragility of a broken heart. In the silence of the cold hospital corridors, every step I took was a reminder of the fine line between life and death. The physical pain was real, but the loss of Eleanor was a wound that seemed to never end. Still, deep down, the mission entrusted to me resonated, insistent and urgent, reminding me that my journey did not end there, no matter how cruel fate had been. In the days following my return to my body, the physical and emotional pain became an almost unbearable burden. Every moment in the hospital was permeated with memories of Eleanor and the feeling that something vital had been lost forever. In the midst of this daily struggle, an unexpected event began to unfold, bringing with it a spark of hope and the promise of protection. During a particularly lonely afternoon, as dusk crept through my bedroom windows, I decided to take a short walk down the hospital hallway. Amid the constant hum of monitors and the soft murmur of healthcare professionals' conversations, my mind wandered to the corners of my childhood. It was then that it occurred to me to remember a distant episode, almost forgotten, but which had marked my existence when I was just a child. I remember almost drowning in a river near my cousin's house. That day, panic took over, but suddenly I felt an invisible hand saving me from the water. My cousin, running to help, commented that a girl with a peculiar glow had appeared to help me, leaving us amazed. Although I didn't understand the nature of that event, I had the feeling of having been touched by something beyond the natural. When I returned to my room, with my head immersed in these memories, I felt a slight discomfort in my pocket. Intrigued, I reached into the fabric of my pants and, to my surprise, found a vibrant green stone that seemed to pulse with its own energy. Its contours were perfect, and the inner glow suggested a presence that transcended mere material. I held it between my fingers, feeling a wave of warmth and protection spread through my body. What is this?" I murmured, almost as if I was waiting for a response from the universe. The stone, silent, seemed to respond with its soft luminosity, as if to say, "I'm here to remind you that you are not alone." That night, as the pain subsided timidly and the room's atmosphere transformed into a sanctuary of peace, I felt that that stone was more than just an object. It was a symbol, an amulet of divine protection that had been placed in my hands precisely at the moment I most needed support. In a vivid dream, I relived the feeling of being helped that day in the river, and the figure of the bright girl appeared to lead me through the turbulent waters. The next morning, I called my nurse, a kind lady who always showed special care for me, and showed her the green stone. "Look, I found this in my pocket," he said in a trembling voice and as if sharing a deep secret. She looked at me with an understanding smile and replied, "Sometimes, life gives us signs that there are greater forces watching over us. Perhaps this stone is your reminder that even in pain, there is protection and hope." His words resonated deeply with me. As the days passed, the green stone became my constant companion. I carried it in my pocket. I squeezed it when longing and anguish threatened to overwhelm me, and with each touch, I felt the comforting presence of something greater, something that told me my mission was just beginning. This connection, which seemed to go back to the most primordial moments of my existence, made me believe that each challenge I faced was accompanied by a guardian angel, ready to guide and protect me. The experience I had transformed my way of seeing existence. It was no longer just about surviving or following the daily routine, but about every gesture, every word, and every encounter with another. Little by little, I realized that the pain, lessons, and visions I had were not punishments or mere coincidences, but signs that pushed me to live with a greater purpose. One day, while walking through the hospital corridors, still immersed in my reflections and with the green stone firmly in my pocket, I met an old friend, Michael. His curious eyes reflected genuine concern. "Caspian, you look different. Something has changed in you," and he commented, as he led him to a bench in the hospital garden. I sat down and looked at him, as if I wanted to convey with each look the intensity of the transformations I had experienced. "You know, Michael, it's not easy to explain, but I feel that every small act of kindness, every sincere smile, has the power to transform the world," I replied in a calm voice, still carrying the weight of my spiritual journey. During conversations with friends, family, and even strangers, I began to realize that the light now shining within me was inspiring those around me. He didn't treat me like a martyr or someone who had mystical answers, but like a human being who, after touching the abyss and coming back, decided to be the flame of hope for others. One sunny afternoon, while helping in a small communal kitchen, an elderly woman approached. His eyes, full of stories and suffering, sought silent comfort in mine. "You have a look that speaks of a lot of pain, but also a lot of hope. What moves you, my son?" she asked, while pouring tea. I smiled humbly, remembering Luciel's teachings and the importance of forgiveness and compassion. "I believe that our mission is simply to be a light on the path of others. Every gesture of kindness, every word of comfort, is a seed that can blossom and transform the world around us," he said, feeling his heart open to the responsibility and beauty of helping others. The following days were marked by small acts that, together, formed a new routine. I started attending support groups, where, in moderation, I shared part of what I experienced, without the intention of explaining spiritual mysteries, but of encouraging others to seek peace within themselves. In one of these meetings, a young man, with tears in his eyes, commented, "I never imagined that, even in the midst of pain, there could be so much beauty and purpose in life. You inspired me to forgive and try to be better." These words were engraved in my soul. Each recognition, each thank you, was a reminder that my mission was being carried out, even if silently and discreetly. Although I didn't write books or give talks, my life became a living example of the power of love and redemption. The green stone continued to be the symbol of this divine protection, accompanying me daily and reminding me that, regardless of the challenges, I had a role to play. Thus, I learned that living with purpose is, first of all, transforming pain into empathy, fear into courage, and loneliness into communion. Each meeting, each goodbye, was a new opportunity to sow hope and strengthen the belief that, even in adversity, love always finds a way to prevail. As the days turned into months and the wound of losing Eleanor became a part of me, I began to realize that each step of my journey was a teaching, an ongoing lesson that echoed the fragility and beauty of life. On long nights of introspection, sitting on the edge of my modest garden in New Orleans, I reflected on everything I had experienced, feeling that each tear shed had been a step towards understanding, love, and forgiveness. One night, the moonlight bathed the scene in a silvery light, and the gentle sound of the breeze through the trees seemed to whisper ancient secrets. Amidst the silence, the green stone rested in my hand, its energy vibrating as a constant reminder of protection and divine connection that would never fade. "Eleanor, I miss you every moment," I murmured, looking at the stone, "but I know that your love continues to guide me, even if from a place I still don't fully understand." On one of these nights, I met with friends in a small house in the neighborhood, where the atmosphere was welcoming and stories of overcoming challenges mixed with the joy of reunion. During a candid conversation, Michael, my longtime friend, commented, "Caspian, you've changed. Your pain turned into wisdom, and even without meaning to, you became a beacon for us all." I smiled, acknowledging that although the journey was lonely, I was not devoid of love and understanding. Maybe I don't completely understand why I lived through all this, but I know that every choice, every tear, was necessary for me to learn to forgive and love more intensely. I replied, feeling the weight and lightness of these words. Little by little, I integrated the spiritual experience into my daily life, without fanfare, but with the conviction that the inner journey continues even when the challenges seem insurmountable. My heart, marked by loss, learned to transform pain into empathy and loneliness into compassion. To each person who crossed my path, I offered a sincere smile, an unpretentious gesture of help, because I understood that, deep down, we were all trying to find meaning in the midst of the uncertainties of existence. In moments of meditation and silent prayer, I remembered Luciel's words and the teachings that almost mystical experience gave me. I realized that love and forgiveness are the most powerful forces in the universe, capable of transforming not only my life, but the lives of those who, like me, faced their own demons. The green stone, always present in my pocket, was a tangible reminder that divine protection never abandons hearts that open themselves to the truth. At the end of this cycle of reflection, I felt a deep gratitude, not only for the moments of light, but also for the shadows that taught me to value each moment. The journey did not end with a reunion with Eleanor or with visions of an uncertain future. It was perpetuated in every act of kindness, in every word of comfort I offered to others. Life is a tapestry of experiences, and even if some lines are marked by sadness, they are intertwined with others of love and hope. I thought, feeling the peace that only full acceptance of existence can bring. Thus, my story ends, but the mission it imposed on me remains alive, to continue walking with an open heart, taking the light I received to illuminate the darkest corners of the world. And while the green stone discreetly shines in my pocket, I know that Eleanor in some way is always by my side, reminding me that love transcends all barriers, and that, even in parting, there is always the promise of a new reunion.